Hey guys, Peter Franson here from christiangeekcentral.com and Spirit Blade Productions. Welcome to Essential Issues Weekly. What is this? Where I talk. Oh my gosh. Where I talk about DC Comics 1 week after their release on the Ultra tier of the DC Universe Infinite subscription service. In each installment, I pick an assortment of comics to talk about as a DC fan and also explore what, if anything, they have to say about the essential issues of real life. Man, I've been in the middle of a crunch right now. Actually, I wish I could blame it on that. I think that was just a brain fart. Anyway, full spoilers warning right now. Everything that I talk about, this is your first and only warning. Many spoilers lie ahead. Okay, I'm catching up on 2 weeks. There wasn't quite enough for me to really talk about last week, and so I just decided, well, I'll just carry over one or two things into this week and combine them together. I normally really hesitate to do that. I do like to keep this to be a weekly thing on the YouTube channel, but I've also been, really crazy busy lately, and I'm getting ready to take some time off as well. So, anyway, first off, I'm going to look at Batman, Catwoman, the Gotham War, Scorched Earth #1, originally published October 31st, 2023, and this went to DC Universe Infinite Ultra on November 28th. And this is the end of the big crossover Gotham War event that has split the vigilante community into two camps, one supporting a Catwoman who's been trying to train criminals to make the best of a bad situation and try to help them to have some kind of decent lives because they'll never presumably be able to get normal work, and Batman is like, no, crime is still crime. This isn't the answer. And so they kind of split in two camps and caused some interesting friction. I think that what I came to conclude by the end of this final issue that capped off the story arc is that I really wish this story would have been told by a single writer in a single book or a mini series or something like that, instead of kind of being spread around. Because what ended up happening was they take this basic premise of splitting the vigilantes into two camps, two kind of different philosophies, but we didn't really get to see that play out in the sense of like an arc or something that really develops over time. It was just, okay, here's this situation. Let's let different writers play in this space for a little bit, and then we'll just end it. And really, I feel like the what was called Batman, Catwoman, the Gotham War, Scorched Earth. I feel like it closed things off without really bringing them to a satisfying climax or building to a climax. It looked like they were going to. Basically, what causes the heroes to reunite is the villains kind of organize, since they don't have enough henchmen to go around anymore, so they kind of get together themselves and kind of get up to no good, and that causes problems that all the heroes of Gotham need to band together despite their differences in order to stop. And so basically they have bigger fish to fry. They can't let these other things separate them anymore. And I think that's kind of a reasonable way to bring this moral dilemma to a close, because it is a complex issue that's being raised here, and I thought gave us as readers something to stew over and really think about, because they weren't representing either view as overly simplistic. At the end of the day, I couldn't necessarily tell you if the writers side on one side or the other, and I think that's pretty fair way of kind of looking at things. I think if anything, maybe they side a little bit more on Catwoman's side than on Batman's side, but there's still problems with both perspectives that are being shown here, and so I just appreciate that complexity being represented. But they're brought together, and I guess they're just going to, okay, we'll shelve this issue for somewhere down the road in the future, except for Jason Todd. Batman does not apologize. Well, he kind of apologizes half-heartedly, basically saying, I'm sorry, I hope someday you'll understand why I brainwashed you and messed you up so that every time your body experiences adrenaline, you have this huge, intense fear. Because he just wanted to take him out of the equation in Gotham, because he views him basically as a serial killer, a murderer, and he's too dangerous. But he doesn't think that he can be necessarily held in a prison, and so he, opts for this brainwashing thing instead, which he does not apologize for. Well, despite that, Jason Todd really seems to be setting himself up for a self-sacrificial moment. There's a big meteor thing that's going to destroy all of Gotham, whatever. Who cares what the details are? Thing's going to destroy Gotham. The only thing that can fix it is Jason Todd getting into a bat plane and flying into it and making it explode. And it looked like this was going to be a kind of a meaningful moment. Like, oh, not that I necessarily thought Jason Todd was going to be dead forever, but I thought, okay, they're taking him off the board. This is a meaningful moment we're having here because he's saying over the radio to Bruce, you were wrong about me. In other words, I can be the hero. I can be self-sacrificing. I can be the ideal that you really have been wanting all of us to become that are training under you over the years. And then this big explosion. But really, that isn't what happened. He just shows up a few scenes later like, oh, okay, I guess he survived. And instead, in the climax, we have this moment where Selina falls into the pit of Lazarus meteors or whatever and presumably dies. And I'm like, well, that's not near as satisfying to me because I'm positive she's not going to die. She's just too much of a significant character in the DC universe, in Batman's life, and neither did I feel like the moment was built up to enough for me to really feel any kind of anguish that Bruce would be feeling about this. He just shouts out, Selina, and so if I don't feel like she's going to die and I'm not really invested and going along on the ride of Bruce thinking that she's going to die, then, I'm not feeling it either way. It's just kind of like it comes and goes. And then, as I said a moment later, Jason Todd shows up and like, oh, by the way, I'm not dead, and so it was a strange way for the whole thing to end. One thing that I did appreciate, though, is that in the aftermath, there has clearly been this breach of trust between Bruce and his former sidekicks and trainees and stuff. Nightwing, along the way, took control of the resources of the Batcave and the networked Batcaves across Gotham and basically locked out Bruce. And this was in an effort to try and stop him because they believed that he'd gone off the rails. And there's been some question as to whether or not Zur-En-Arrh, the backup identity Batman created for himself to protect against brainwashing, is maybe taking more control than Bruce thinks that he is. And so that, because of that, they shut him out. But whether it's Zur-En-Arrh at this point or not, Bruce decides, listen, okay, I'm separated from you guys. Clearly it's not going to work, and I don't think I'm a good leader, a good example for you anyway, so I'm going to go off and do my own thing, and you guys function however you want among yourselves. Dick, Barbara, you guys be like kind of the parents of all these vigilantes, because that's not who I am, and that's not who they should look to me to be. And so really we go from one interesting status quo that's being played with to kind of turning that one off, but starting a brand new one here where Bruce is going to be operating completely on his own. I am very interested in this kind of Batman. I mean, honestly, the more the Bat family has grown, I tend to think it's way overinflated, and so I like Batman as a loner. What's kind of a bummer is it looks like he's being a loner because Zur-En-Arrh is manipulating him to be. That we're going to see how it actually plays out, if that's the case or not. That's what seems to be the case from what I'm seeing in the pages of Batman, which I'll get to in a little bit here. But I do prefer Batman as a loner, so it's a shame to think that what he's doing here is because of Zur-En-Arrh, even though he says, this isn't Zur-En-Arrh, this is me, So I don't know, we'll see how it fully plays out, but I like the new status quo they're shifting into, and I liked the main premise of Gotham War, but the way that it ended, the way that it wrapped up, I just kind of found really dramatically unsatisfying. I'll just make some brief comments on the Supergirl Special #1, which came out the same month in November. It looks like they're trying to find ways to differentiate Kara from Power Girl, Supergirl from Power Girl, because I think ostensibly they're the same person from parallel realities. I was kind of under the impression that Power Girl was maybe a little bit older, like maybe about 5 to 10 years older than Kara, but I'm not sure. But the way they seem to present the two characters as they meet and interact a bit here is that they are, very, very similar. They are basically parallel versions of each other. And, like I was saying with the Batman family, even more so, I think when the Superman family gets too big, it's like, I thought he was the last son of Krypton. I mean, there was a time when it was overinflating way too much, and then when Crisis on Infinite Earths happened, they're like, okay, Superman's it. He's the only Kryptonian that is remaining. And over the years, they've slowly refilled in his ensemble cast of Kryptonians or equivalents thereof, and I think it leads to problems like this that I think DC is rightly realizing we need to do something here to really strongly differentiate these two characters if they're both going to exist in the same universe. And what they've played with before that I've found interesting, but the writing of her book wasn't interesting enough for me to stick with it. But the premise that I like with Kara is that she remembers Krypton, and so she is traumatized by the loss of it. And they've been playing with that a little bit more, and I think we're maybe, if this special is kind of an indication of where we're going to go with Supergirl in the future, either in her own book or wherever else she appears, then I might be interested because they play with some memories of Krypton that she's kind of recovering. Evidently, she had a lot of false memories that were given to her from like a VR experience in the ship that was taking her from Krypton to Earth. And so we do seem to be at kind of a reset point where she's gonna be remembering her true past on Krypton. And part of that, as revealed in this issue, is that she is very competitive in some sense, and to a great fault. She remembers a race that she ended up losing back on Krypton, and in this situation with Power Girl, she ends up in an effort to outdo Power Girl, actually sabotaging their efforts to save the people that they're trying to save. And thankfully, Power Girl was able to, pull a win out and save the people. But Supergirl is definitely not looking heroic in this issue at all. She's got this major problem of being competitive or feeling like it's a race when she's with other heroes. And I can imagine only more so when she's with someone that is basically her double. So they bring some small resolution to that arc here, but I have to think, and maybe even kind of hope, that it's going to be a continuing character flaw wherever we see Supergirl going forward. I'm not sure if I'll like what they do with that flaw, but I think giving her something like this is a valuable step toward engaging me with her and finding her relatable or interesting on her own. So anyway, I guess that's all I have to say for now about Supergirl Special number 1. It does make me interested to see, okay, what are we going to do with Supergirl next? So I will have my eyes peeled and probably give whatever they do with her a try for at least one issue. Then finally, just last week on the Ultra tier, Batman number 139 was released with a publishing date originally of November 7th, 2023. And this is now Bruce on his own, barely even functioning as Batman. He's got like an apartment in some cruddy part of town where he's got some basic equipment and his bat costume. Yeah, he does have his bat costume. And he's mostly doing his work as Batman by wearing costumes and, aliases during the day. He's really trying to hunt down the Joker. And so it's this very kind of low-tech grassroots version of Batman that in some ways I think is maybe a callback to his very early days as Batman. But now, out of necessity, because he's been cut off from his resources because of how things fell out between him and the rest of the Bat family. But what we see in this issue is that Zur-Anar definitely is more of a influential force in Bruce's mind than even was hinted at previously in the Gotham War story arc. And this really comes to a head when he confronts the Joker, one of 3 Jokers, and there's a little note from the editor saying, be sure to catch up on the Joker, the man who stopped laughing, which I saw that story and I was like, oh, I don't know if I really want to read a story about the Joker, but it looks like it's really exploring the three Jokers concept that was introduced under a Black Label story a while back that has since slowly been more and more confirmed to be part of DC continuity. And so I have not read that yet, and this was kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back. I was like, okay, I need to. I've read three Jokers, but I need to read this now. The Joker, the Man Who Stopped Laughing, because Joker references himself having an identity crisis, and so it looks like they're making some changes or establishing some things there that I'll want to certainly be aware of. But while Joker is having his own identity crisis, Batman's identity crisis is really coming to the center as well. In fact, it seems that the Batman that Joker really wants to go up against is, as he says to Bruce, the real you, which is revealed on the next page to be Zur-Anar. In this Joker's mind, for whatever reason it has yet to be revealed, he knows about seemingly Zur-Anar and thinks of Zur-Anar as the true Batman that he really wants to go mano a mano with. And I find that really interesting. I can't wait to see kind of what's going to come out with that, especially since, like, in the final splash page, before it says to be continued, we see Bruce gaining an awareness of, like, multiple versions of Zur-Anar in different art styles, representing different iterations of Batman in different, not only different stories under different artists and different time periods, but like in different settings, like the Batman animated series, and it looks like even the Dark Knight Returns and stuff like that. And so I'm like, whoa, what are we talking about? He's got more than one version of Zur-Anar inside of him. So I'm really curious what they're going to be unpacking in the next issue. So once again, I don't consider myself conceptually a huge Batman fan, but I felt like in recent years they've just been putting the kind of talent on Batman, specifically the series titled Batman, that really connects with me, that's doing stuff that I find really interesting. And so this was Batman 139, and I just can't I can't imagine what's going to come in Batman 140, but I'm very interested to see what it will be. Okay, so I guess those are all of my thoughts for now. As always, I love to get your comments and reactions in the comments below. Which of these books had your attention? Are you reading Batman? What do you think of this Zur-Anar stuff? Is it cheesy? Is it weird? Is it being over leveraged? I'd love to get your thoughts about this or anything else DC Comics. Remember to check out also christiangeekcentral.com for tons more content. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.
I'm not interested.